Hi, everybody, and welcome back to our podcast. If you're new here, this is a audio recording from Consortium More Than Marketing, and we're here this week to talk to you a little bit about how you can turn your employees into brand advocates, how you can get the core values of your business to your staff, and how do you get them on board with them. Today, my special guest is Belinda Palmer. She is a marketer with 22 years of experience, a member of the Chartered Institute of Marketing. Hi, Belinda. How's it going?
Hi, Jen. Hi, good, thank you.
So you've written a couple of pieces about this topic on our website already. Like our audience can check those out, consortiumbiz.co.uk/blog. But we should really get into the sort of the detail of it. What we're talking about really is communicating values and the core values of your business. So I think that there is a bit of a tendency for people to not really put much stock in the values of the business that they work for. Like they don't really matter very much. Either they're just words on a website, or if you've got a bit of a budget, maybe you've put them up on your wall with a vinyl sticker, and that's kind of it. They're just there. Can you tell us why you think that it's so important for a business to not only have those core values in the first place, but also to convey them to stakeholders?
Yeah, Jen. So, I completely feel, what you're saying there, that a lot of firms do just kind of pay lip service to their core values, and they don't really resonate with not only the staff, but actually with leadership as well. I've been very fortunate over the years to work for, firms where the values are absolutely intrinsically part of their DNA. So what it means is the teams actually feel the values because leadership live the values. And for me, that is, really important. So it's all down to that kind of authenticity. In fact, a client recently spoke to me about the importance of authenticity in firms, and it almost reminded me back to the days when values became the new buzzword, but actually how far it's become. And I think authenticity is one thing for me that is probably the most important thing, because it really helps to foster trust and genuine connection. And through storytelling, you can kind of make your values come to life. If people share their insights and their experiences in a really authentic way, they can really align with the company's values. And you kind of get the opportunity to incorporate it into meetings, what's working well, what's not working well, what could you change about your job or the business if you could. And all of that builds towards what is really important in your firm's values.
I think a really good example is actually Consortium, like not to brag, but if you take a look at our core values, which are listed on our website, but flexibility is one of them. And we sort of mean that in terms of having a flexible approach to the way that we work with other people. But also flexible working is something that is built really core into the body and the day-to-day of how we work. It's not just a buzzword, most of these initial recordings will be me and my guest working from home. So we talk the talk, but we walk the walk to match it. And I think that tracks. You can kind of see that when we speak of being flexible, we have the evidence to back it up. It's authentic.
Absolutely.
So what would you do to encourage, if let's say that you're the managing director of a firm, what would you do to encourage your employees to actually embody and, hopefully believe in the core values of the business?
So, Jen, I think for me, the most important thing, as I kind of intimated at earlier, is really, really important to lead by example. For me, I look to kind of, leaders in a business to almost set the precedent. And they really have the opportunity to make those values feel real. they need to be authentic. They need to model those values through their actions, the decisions that they make. They really need to walk the talk. So don't just, post it on a wall or, put it on a website. Actually live those values every single day in all the decisions that you make, and explain what it really means in good practice. Of course, values are very personal. So it's important to encourage employee input into shaping of those values, so they really feel involved and fosters that buy-in. And then, over time, assess them, see if they're still working for you, what improvements need to be made, what does that come through in terms of how you share your stories, how does your internal comms showcase examples of those values in action, so it really builds awareness throughout the firm. And very importantly, integrate them into your hiring and your training, because what you want to do is you want to hire
That's
people
really good.
who have the same
Yeah.
values as you, because you know that you've built a business based on those values, you've got clients based on those values, and you want future staff to also be able to live those values. And I think when employees demonstrate those values, call it out, reward them, recognize them, that positive reinforcement really works, and also hold people accountable. So, adhering
Yeah,
to
it
those
goes both
values and
ways.
performance evaluations, it's really important. So discuss it in reviews. What values have they lived? What what have they done? And don't have values and then expect your team to act in the opposite way. That's completely counterintuitive. So I think it's really important to get people to really feel what those values mean to them personally and to the firm, and try and get them to live and breathe them. In a previous role, where values, many years ago, it was being rolled out to the whole business, and we lived and breathed those values in every single communication we wrote, every conversation we had, and it became so part of our DNA that we lived those values. So to me, that really is important.
What's really interesting is that like my big takeaway from what you've said there is that your business's values are not like a static object. They're a living thing that goes
Absolutely.
with you. So,
Yeah,
you should change them if they don't fit. And,
absolutely.
you said living and breathing, and it's totally that. It's
Yeah,
why they're so much more than just a nice sticker that you have on your wall.
yeah,
They're
completely,
active.
completely.
They're like a active participant in the way that you run your business, and getting
Yeah,
people. Adding it into your onboarding is such a good idea. It's like so core to start people off in the direction that you want them to walk in. Totally amazing.
absolutely, absolutely.
So, we've, as I just said, we just had a little chat about how your core values are actually mutable, they're changeable, they're living. If you were going to refine your core values, because I think there's a tendency for a lot of people when they're asked, not just about your values, about anything. Like yesterday, I was writing something about buyer personas, right? There's this tendency for those kinds of thought exercises for business that tend to be really broad when people first approach them, and
Yeah,
it takes
yeah,
work to
yeah,
narrow it down.
absolutely.
How would you convey any of those changes to your staff, and how would you get them to buy in to the process of changing their values, and then obviously the final product?
Sure. I think you've absolutely got to explain the rationale to understand why you're making these changes. So has there been a business imperative that has fundamentally shifted the way that your values are perceived and lived through the business? So whether it's a compliance change or anything like that. So what is the rationale? And don't just change it for the sake of changing it. Make sure that there's a really meaningful reason behind those changes. And really, I think for me, involve your employees early on, because that really creates that sense of ownership as to what is important for them and why there is a need for the change. Definitely announce the changes from the leadership, because it adds so much weight to the importance of those values. And then, as I said before, you've got to model those values in words and in actions, not just in words, particularly from the leadership side, and reiterate and drive the adoption internally through internal comms processes so that people really understand the reason for it. Give examples if you need to, tell stories as to why those values have changed so that you can really get their buy-in. And train employees, get them to recognize and see what those new values are, and address any of the questions and assess the buy-in, and again, refine if necessary. It kind of becomes an ongoing process. I don't think it's something that you're going to change every year. Fundamentally, we are who we are, and our values are, what makes us what we are. You're not going to make a drastic change. It's more small refinements than massive big changes. You're not going to go from saying, for example, it's all about working hard, and then going, oh, by the way, work hard, work-life balance is really important. The work-life balance is going to be part of your values anyway. So I think it's making those subtle refine changes and really get the buy-in and explain the reasons why you're making those changes.
I think it would be incredibly unusual for you as an individual or as a team, to just suddenly drop one of your core values,
absolutely,
especially because hopefully at that point you have been doing all of this stuff, like training and communicating and exactly. Having that buy-in, and then suddenly to be like, oh, we're not flexible anymore, we're going exactly. rigid, is a little bit
the only way where that would have changed drastically is something like, an international, phenomenon like the pandemic,
right? Yeah,
where,
of course.
Flexibility was absolutely not part of what we did, and we all in the office, and suddenly flexibility had to become part of the business model.
Yeah.
So the values of the business then changed to flexibility, etc. So those shifts hopefully only come once in a lifetime.
Yeah, I was going to say,
and not regularly. But it's massive shifts like that, probably slightly different. Or if there was a massive shake-up, or economic meltdown, and there was a change to our value of our business is to earn money all the time, and actually it shouldn't just be about earning money. It's actually about being corporate citizens, being responsible to our clients, etc.
So I would follow that up with, we're talking about the pandemic as an example of an external force that shifts. Excluding any drastic world-changing events, do you have any sort of emerging trends that you've noticed, or new technologies or anything that are actually helping businesses convey these values to their staff? I mean, the pandemic, obviously, it sort of, Zoom, right? Zoom exploded out of nowhere. Is there anything like that you can think of?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're in the AI age, aren't we?
Yeah.
And this is just the start of what AI is going to offer in terms of what we can do. In fact, I was listening to Sunak yesterday talking about the future of AI with the UK, and to me, what it does is it's that is probably first and foremost, part of AI, even, just one small facet of it as part of your hiring, having tools where you can use it in your recruitment to remove biases and kind of really improve the hiring process is really important, just to make sure that your candidates actually align with the firm's values throughout that hiring process, and it can all be done through AI. There's other technologies like virtual reality and augmented reality that obviously are so forward thinking, that firms can really explore the use of VR and AR to immerse employees in kind of virtual experiences that align with the company's core values, and kind of use those technologies for onboarding, for training, for team building, etc. So I think we're at the age now where all of the old kind of, tools and stuff that we had previously, I remember stuff that we used to use in previous firms that I've worked in. And now we've got, gamification platforms where you can make communication, kind of part of your core values and more engaging and interactive for staff. And employees can really participate in the games and challenges and kind of really can reinforce the company's values. So I think we're at a really exciting time of technology to enhance the way that we we align with our values and push our values out to our teams.
I was going to say that I think we're no longer at that period of time where you have to sort of hire a hotel in the middle of nowhere and, have a 3-day.
I do think that stuff is
still relevant,
important. It's still
definitely,
relevant, but it kind of it's
not.
It's along with all the other stuff.
Yeah, it's not the only option anymore.
Oh,
And
absolutely,
those kinds of things. I mean, I guess we're talking. It's hard to scale those kinds of things, right? Like if you're a small business,
Yes, exactly.
doing that kind of stuff is really difficult. And it gets, I say it gets easier. The more people you have, the more hotel rooms you have to book.
Oh, exactly.
But,
absolutely.
It just gives you more options, doesn't it? To sort of engage with people both in your office, remotely, or internationally if you have international stakeholders.
Definitely.
So I think what I would want from you to wrap this up is just like one really good thing, one key thing that you think that the person listening to this right now can do when they take their headphones off to sort of improve how their values are held within their business.
I think I'm going to go back to what one of my clients has spoken about recently, which is around authenticity. So for me, if you really want your teams to buy into your values, you have to lead by example. You have to be authentic. You have to be genuine. If you expect one thing from your team and you do something else, you'll lose credibility and integrity, and your team just won't buy into your values or the firm's values. So for me, being absolutely authentic and being genuine with what those values are, and make sure that they do resonate with the rest of your team as well. I think the pandemic definitely shifted things in the respect that, yes, values were important before, but actually they're probably more important now than they were before the pandemic, because actually we've realized how invaluable we all are, and life is fragile. So for me, be authentic, be genuine, and make sure that from a leader's perspective in your firm, that you lead by example with your values.
So I would say if you're listening to this and maybe you don't know or you don't care about what the values of your business are, maybe go look them up, and then sort of think about how you can just like even little things, like if your value document lists kindness, maybe open the door for someone today. Just little stuff to show that you care. Okay.
Definitely.
Belinda, thank you so much for joining me and for letting us pick your brains over this. A very interesting topic, and I would love to hear what people think. So if you've got any comments or if you have any questions, you can email me at podcast@consortiumbiz.co.uk, and maybe we'll read your comments on the show. That would be fun. And if you have any questions, maybe we'll forward them to Belinda if they're really good. If you are an expert in this field and you would like to come and talk to us, or talk to me anyway, about your field of expertise, then please email me as well. Same address, podcast@consortiumbiz.co.uk, and we'll see about getting you on the show. And if you enjoyed this conversation and you would like to learn more about the sort of stuff that we do, or just get more of our really good tips and tricks, then you can subscribe to our newsletter on our website. It's consortiumbiz.co.uk. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.
Thanks, Jen. Cheers.